Well, welcome everybody to another segment of Continence Chat. We're very grateful for all of our viewers and actually very grateful for our guest today, Angie Gray. Many of you may know in the senior living industry. She's very well connected. She's also the founder of High Performance Nursing. And while most of you will probably know her as a coach, a nurse, I'm so proud to introduce her as a breath of fresh air and really becoming a very quick, fast friend of mine. I just think she is just smart, talented, and kind and committed and good to the core. So salt of the earth. So welcome, Angie. We're thrilled that you're here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. What a kind introduction. Thank you. I'm honored by your words. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And Susie, always fun to see you. I do enjoy these podcasts.
We have a good time and we get to meet some wonderful people. So I'm looking forward to having our viewers get to know Angie and what she's doing and how she's empowering people.
Yeah. So maybe, Angie, as a way of getting started, would you mind just sharing a little bit about your background? I think people are always interested in passion behind an entrepreneur. What led you to start your business? But if you give a little background and how you got to where you are today, that would probably be super helpful.
Okay. All right. So wrap that all up in a couple of minutes, right? It's always the journey or the challenge. I have a nursing background, which is how I got where I'm at, but I have a nursing background. I think that I loved my nursing job, but like so many other folks that I talk to now, I had a really hard time with culture. And so I left my nursing career. It was a very challenging decision, but it was really for survival at that time. We had 4 children at that time and came home and was able to homeschool them. And we had a few more kids afterwards. We have 7. And for 18 years, stayed away from my nursing career to homeschool my kids. Best decision we ever made. Challenging decision, really actually a gut-wrenching decision to leave that because I loved my patients so much and I'm not a quitter, but I didn't want to leave, but it was the best decision in retrospect. We're very blessed to have done that. During that time, I did a lot of personal growth and development classes, coaching courses. Those were just things I was interested in. I have to say too that, my husband and I have been married for 34 years, but we were divorced for a year during that time. It's like 21 years ago now. That taught me a lot, Deanna and Susie, and that was a big part of my growth journey. And what I got from that after fast forward 18 years and a lot of courses, a lot of personal development, I had partnered with a company learning a lot about prevention education, which I'm also very passionate about, our health and wellness. It really gave me a great respect and kept bringing me back to relationships, my relationship with my family, my relationship with my health. So that's kind of what happened, developed all those skills, kind of felt it was now about 14 years ago, felt like my kids were old enough now. I was ready to expand. I had the opportunity to be on the Dr. Oz show a couple of times as I partnered with that company as a nurse representative. And that broadened my horizons to kind of see where nursing was at the time. Those 2 segments I co-hosted with him were called The Future of Nursing. So I learned a lot through that process about the changes that hadn't happened in those 18 years that I was away from nursing. It continued to be really toxic, really just a lack of development of our nurse leaders specifically in relationship skills, people skills. And that was really to our detriment. And we were experiencing the same things. And I think now continue to experience a real disservice to the nurses for sure, but the people that they take care of and lead in our communities. So all that brought me to creating a course. I know this is hard, a big story, but all that brought me to creating a course that I started online, and I started to partner with long-term care and senior living organizations to train and coach their nurse leadership. And I do a ton of keynote speaking. That's actually what started me on fire, the opportunity to speak across the country with that company and really get a feel for what people were yearning for. And I still think they are now. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell. That's a lot to digest and take in, and I'm fascinated by it. I have a question for you. I know you do a lot of keynote speaking and you do a lot of coaching within the senior living industry. I have a background in healthcare sales, and healthcare, in my opinion, unfortunately, is very broken. It has been for years. I feel sometimes like we're treading water, but there are still a lot of challenges. Senior living, I feel like, is on the heels. What I see happening in senior living, I've seen it in healthcare. People are having more chronic conditions. They're living older, staffing crisis. I could go on and on. Do you find for what you do with senior living and nurses, is your coaching from a perspective of a fix, a complement, or a proactive approach? Like, what are nurses hungry for in senior living these days?
It's a great question. Well, first of all, there is a misunderstanding of what coaching is. Coaching is not to fix. I'm not here to fix anyone. Really, the easiest way to say it is I get the opportunity to come alongside someone who is willing to grow. They're just these nurse leaders, as far as that group of people, they're already raising their hand like I was, so many years ago. They're already raising their hand. They already kind of came to the planet knowing a recognition and understanding self-awareness that they want to grow. I think that is intuitive to all of us, consciously or unconsciously. That's what we all are here to do, is to grow. We're not here to become stagnant and not grow. So I'm connecting and working with those that are willing to grow and raising their hand. And they are also at organizations that are willing to develop them. So they see the need and they're plugging me in. So those two places, but they're willing to grow, and they're finding themselves stuck in a lot of things that they're being expected to do and not knowing how to do it. Because another conversation we have often is in nursing schools, they're not taught so the main thing, you guys, that they're talking to me about, it's not clinical stuff. Basically, it's just not clinical. It always comes to people skills, and they don't know how to handle this relationship or this conflict, or they feel like they're doing their best, but they've never been taught or coached through self-awareness, how to create trusting relationships, how to manage conflict for a deeper connection, how to create boundaries. So those are all leadership skills, how to be vulnerable. They've not been taught that. And I think you'll resonate with this, guys, that you hear us talking a lot about, is this all connects back to, we each have, the baggage that we bring into every relationship. And as a leader, you got a lot of those relationships. If we're not aware of the baggage, which might be, another term would be trauma. We all have some traumas, and we bring that to every relationship. It really begins there. It's not my job to fix the trauma. It's my job to help people become aware of whatever those triggers are, and then we work through them. They already have the answers. I'm just there to help them actualize those.
Gotcha.
I have a question based on what you just said. What are some tips that somebody could learn from you right now that would help them create that trust?
Oh, that's so good. So that is like a foundation of everything that I talk about, whether it be in my coaching or training or keynote speaking. It's always about trust. Without trust, every relationship will erode eventually. And that's what we're finding. And those nurses, those leaders don't want it to keep happening. So they're like, help, save me. Great question, Susie. So what I talk a lot about is conflict to connection. So here's just a quick thing that is really easy for people to do. I mean, it's a practice, obviously. It's going to be easy to tell you these kind of principles. Not so easy to practice them, but with consistent practice, it's life-changing, game-changing in every relationship, personal and professional. And I also teach that those are connected. We bring each one to each relationship. So the conflict to connection looks like this. That would be the first thing towards building trust. So let's say I have a conflict with Deanna. So I would have to first be self-aware enough I apologize. I'm having some weird things happening in my phone right now. First of all, the self-awareness that comes with being able to recognize that I've been triggered. So there's some trigger that's happening within me or with both people. So that's a conflict. Anything that feels like that where we're doing this, that's a conflict. I have to be able to recognize within myself, is this something that I can take care of with me? Or is this something that needs to be talked about with the other person? Am I pointing a finger or am I looking inside? So let's say I've done that work and it is something that I feel as a leader that I need to talk to Deanna about. So what it would look like is I would ask Deanna for some time. It's always want to be respectful of someone's time. So you ask for the appointment. You begin. So then Deanna, on the other hand, then she takes responsibility and accountability for saying, yes, I want to give you that time. Thank you for respecting me. No, that's a trust thing right there. You're respecting my time. You're not barging into my office. You're asking me for your time. So now we're both accountable and responsible. We get to that meeting. And since I asked for it, I'm going to begin with starting with an appreciation. We all need to be appreciated, and we can always find at least one thing, even if you feel like, oh my gosh, I do not like Deanna right now. I'm so angry with Deanna. She's all these things, you know, that are in our heads that we can believe. And so I want to start with an appreciation. Deanna, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the things that you do. Thanks for showing up for this meeting. You know, I really appreciate your time. Start with appreciation. So set the appointment, start with appreciation. Then it's really just 4 simple steps. You're going to identify the facts. So we could say, Deanna, you've been coming to the meetings that we've been having consistently late. Simple. And here's the really important thing when you have a meeting like this, you have to keep it short. So you can keep it short and have empathy, compassion. You can have feeling behind it and connection behind it, but it does need to be short. So you get 3-4 sentences max. So I've said, Deanna, facts, you've been consistently coming to our team meetings late. Fact. Okay, now I'm going to say the story that I'm telling myself. So I'm not saying this to her. I'm not saying the facts, the story. I'm not doing that, but the story, then I'm going to share the story. I feel like these meetings aren't meaningful to you, or you really don't want to be there. That's what it seems like. That's the story I'm going to share. And then the next thing is, how do I feel about that? So that can be a tricky one. So you want to be careful, but you want to take responsibility for your feelings. I feel disrespected. I feel like it's disrespectful also to the rest of the team who care about you and respect you, and it gets confusing. So I feel confused at why this consistently continues to happen. And then, so now the 4th one is repair. So now I'm going to ask Deanna for what I need from her. How does she repair this conflict? Deanna, what I need from you is for you to please begin to be on time. And how can I help you do that? That's it. So of course, you know, there's nuances to that, but basically the hardest thing I find for people to do is to keep it short. But if you give them that template, that simple system to get through it, my gosh, and you can use this with your kids, your spouse, your partner, whoever, it's super valuable in leadership, but I do with my kids too. It's definitely been helpful because I use more words than my husband. So me learning to be direct, those 3 to 4 sentences, super helpful to him, very helpful to him. My son, he and I both use more words. So we got to check each other. We're like, all right, we're having a conflict. Remember, you get 4 words per thing. Me too. So, but I can't even tell you how it's been incredibly helpful, incredibly helpful. We get right to it. And, you know, when time is such an important asset, you know, like when time is so short, it's really important to have the respect for people to be able to get to it and do it well, you know, with empathy, compassion, all that stuff. So that's what it would be. And that's the beginning of trust, right?
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because being in the sales profession, when you talked about initially developing that trust through an appreciation, and then your exact wording, you'll have to repeat it for me, your exact wording, but my mind was fast forwarding. In sales, you have, to me, you develop trust from, they don't have to be written agreements, but the unwritten agreements. For example, if we were to have a meeting right? If we say, hey, Angie, would you, like to attend this meeting with us? And then we have the meeting, you come, I come, Susie comes, the meeting takes place. They're unwritten things, but the trust is developed. It kind of parallels from what you're saying, but I think that's crucial. And then I was thinking about transparency and time can be very sisters or cousins type of thing, where people being respectful of time and keeping things short for that. But there are some parallels there that are just kind of interesting.
Can I expand on that just a little bit? Because that was a super good point. So in my training and again, all the things that I hope to pay forward, these are all just lessons that I've learned, and mostly the hard way. But everybody has a different way that we communicate in order to develop trust with me. So a quick example, I had a team that I was leading several years ago, and my kids were littler then, and we had this big event I was doing with my team, and we were all to meet at this venue. So I organized it, we're meeting here, everybody be here at this time, yada, yada. So I'm in the car late. I call my team and I'm like, hey, whoever answered, and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to be late, blah, 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 kids. Okay. And so we hang up. I'm there 15 minutes late. I get there, there's 6 of them around the table. I start getting my stuff out, start talking about the meeting, apologize again, start talking about the meeting. And one particular woman picks up her stuff, packs it up, walks out. End of that story looks like this. The story that I was telling myself, okay, so we could walk through all that, we don't have time, but the story, because I didn't have these skill sets at the time, I wasn't aware of my own, how I was communicating, nor what's important to her. As a leader, the most important person in that meeting is you. You're the most important person. So it's my job to be self-aware, understanding how I'm communicating, and understand the clues that you've left me to how best communicate with you to develop that trust. So back to, her name was Mindy. Going back to Mindy, at first the story I was telling myself was, wow, whatever, like I'm paraphrasing, but in my mind I was like, okay, whatever, Mindy, having a bad, having a bad day. Okay, whatever, recoup, let's go, let's forget about that. And what I learned, and, because I was like, well, come on, man, I've got a billion kids. Can't you throw me some, compassion or empathy here, whatever. But the facts were that actually, this was not the first time I was late. This is not the first time I've asked people to, I'm so sorry. So leaders of teams, everyone gets that, right? When someone is consistently doing something, and we have to learn how to communicate that. So it wasn't only me, it was unintentionally breaking down those trusts, those little pieces of trust, to your point, Deanna. Brene Brown talks about trust is built in the little moments. I talk about that in my own way as well. Like, those are miracle moments that we have to build trust. So I was already doing that to her for a long time. I didn't realize that, but she also didn't have the skills to communicate that to me. So it was these two things. But once I, as the leader, knew, which shortly after someone paid forward these skill sets to me, and I was so excited. It's all these aha moments, and bells and whistles were going off. And I had the opportunity to go back to Mindy and say, hey, I realized that moment for me was a big learning moment, and I'm really, really sorry. For many, many people, a huge part of communicating trust is you do not be late. You will lose accounts. You will lose people's trust forever and ever and ever. And it takes a long time in sales. Like, that's how I started, Deanna, in sales.
Yeah.
And you have like the first 3 minutes, man. After that, dude, if you don't, you blow it, you blow it. Good luck trying to get that back. And a huge part of that, and depends on whatever communication style you have. So anyway, that was a really good point to bring up.
Yeah. I'm curious, from your perspective and with your nursing background, one of the things that we have found, Susie, I'll be curious for your input too, these triggers. We talked about this just a little bit offline ago, and I'm about to go to another conference. So I'm thinking about communication from internal team members to leadership team members. But we're manufacturers, right, of high performing adult incontinence products. And we have conversations in the exhibit halls with many, many different types of leaders, whether they're resident wellness directors, it could be memory care directors, executive directors. But on the long-term care side of things, often we will have people who will say to us in these roles, we love your products. We want your products. Our residents need your products. So we want them, we need them, our residents need them, the family need everybody. But that's a corporate decision. And I was sharing with you, and Susie knows my feelings on that. I struggle with that answer so much because from mine, and maybe I'm learning something here, Angie, right from you. In my mind, my story tells me, oh, you have a licensure, you have all this worry on your shoulders, but what you're not able to take place in that decision making, and it's a challenge for your residents, because all of us are in this together, in my opinion, to help improve outcomes, right, for residents ultimately. So I'm probably walking in my own narrow-minded shoes here, but I've never really understood that. But as you're just saying this, I'm thinking, there could be a million dynamics. It could be leadership. It could be do as you're told. It could be someone in the shoes that has a billion kids at home. They need their role. But what would be a tip for those folks to be able to approach leadership to say, help me, change is warranted. Let's do this. Are there any tips that you might be able to offer?
It's a $1 million question, but yeah, it is one that, it's a couple different dynamics, because it would have to be assuming it's important to the person that you're talking to, right? Like, so we love your product, and then you say, kind of like, well, what do you, let's get it in there, right? Or tell me that space, because when they say it's a corporate thing, now it's become, they've handed it off. So you're like, okay, well, why don't you say something to them? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I would probably, I would often say, gee, could you help me understand how those decisions are made, and what part do you have? Because I really do think that I know so much weight is riding on the shoulders of all community caregivers, regardless of role in that community these days. I think there are very few that say we don't have a lot of stress and worry because of the dynamics. You've got the residents, you've got goes on and on, right? So to me, I think of it as, I almost feel bad in a way of like, wow, you've got all this stress. And if it's a corporate decision just for incontinence products, it's probably a corporate decision for nutrition, meds. We could go on and on. So it's not just a carve out of Seni products, it's a carve out. So I feel like I try to learn. I come from it from a learn, because I'm always curious to learn of, and is there any way we could meander in together to help connect with the right people and sit down together and talk. That's my approach anyway. It's more to learn. So Susie, you look like you had a hand up.
Yeah. Is there a way to empower the healthcare workers to have a more effective work environment?
Girl, you're speaking my language. And yes, there is. But then again, we also have these decision makers don't have, depending on who we're talking to, it's a process in this healthcare system, senior living industry, whatever, so let's just break it down there. They don't have the autonomy to make those decisions by themselves. But when they do make those decisions to develop their leadership, whatever leadership space that might be, your nursing, your EDs, your VPs of clinical, whoever it might be, to teach them the language to negotiate, to collaborate, to manage conflict, to influence, all of those things. Yes, they need those skills, not just to get what they want, not just to get, Seni's continence, stuff into their thing because they believe in it, although that is important, right? They need to be able to speak up on behalf of those they serve. But it is exactly the things that we're talking about. They give the training and the skills of relationship skills, emotional intelligence, learning how to create trust right off the bat, things to look for, all of those nuanced people skills. Those are the hard skills to learn. And do you know why they're the hard skills? We can easily say that is because nobody wants to do it. No one prioritizes these skills, but I do see a shift in what's happening. I do over this last year, I think Deanna, you and I talked about, there is a shift because we keep speaking up. We keep more and more of us, and it's a snowball effect that we are saying, hey, We need to have these skills, not, yes, for me, but on behalf of those people I serve, the teams, the clients. I got to know how to talk to you. And that's the problem. They don't know how because they haven't been trained. So my whole course that I teach in high performance nursing, that every person that I coach, every executive person that I coach gets that as part of their coaching. They get to go through the course, and it goes through teaching you exactly. Starts with self-awareness. Then we go into how to have trusted conversations and to build trust. Then how do we have boundaries in both personal and professional relationships, because they're connected. So yes, people do need to learn, and it will help them be more influential, more confident in the work that they do. They're able to create those trusted cultures, all the things. I mean, it all comes down to communication and relationship building. But like we talked about in the beginning, it's such a disservice. Students, as far as nursing goes, and many others, we're taught all the hard skills, the heart skills, those soft skills, unfortunately have been put on the back burner. And I think we're paying the price for that.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
There's hope, but there's hope. I don't want to leave it on that note. There's hope. There's hope, and it's our responsibility. Like, we can't keep, like, I'm a huge advocate for the organization to take responsibility to provide that growth and development opportunity, whether it be training or coaching or whatever. And I just posted on LinkedIn today about this. It's also our responsibility individually. Like, you all didn't get here by not taking responsibility for your abilities and your calling, if you will, to serve, to take that next step, to be my best and highest self. And I think we need to keep talking about that too.
Yeah. And I think in senior living and in healthcare, I think most people in the profession are kind, good people. I always call it hope ties with, it's unintentional. It's lack of education across so many things, but it's not vindictive. These are good people. Like, to me, people are good people doing the best that they can and so forth. But I think your approach, the more I talk with you, Angie, the more I learn. You are on the proactive side. And I think that's some of the alignment that we have with Seni is, to me, when we're all more we're a very reactive country. Let's fix.
Yeah.
And it's proactive. Let's cut it off at the curb before it gets here, across so many different things. So I think that's important to note, that the industry as a whole and healthcare as a whole, you have good people, just lack of education and a lot of tasks to do. And that leads to challenges for sure.
Absolutely. And may I say too, that I love that when you asked me that question before, when you're asking someone, they're telling you they love their products, and you're like, okay, how do we, move that forward? I mean, that's what I was going to say to you. So you already know, like, it is about asking questions and being interested in how I can serve you, the person I'm asking these questions to. How can we work together to serve at a higher level? And asking those questions, you nailed it. So being curious and building trust, that's one way you do it.
Yeah. Understanding goes a long way. Or trying to understand goes a long way.
Yeah. So important, that gap. And one more thing is that you just said, and I would have said too, and so thank you, just that the not pointing the finger, because like, we have so much division in our country and everywhere, right? I feel like being an advocate for bridging that gap and learning to recognize the trigger that's really like making me, because of the way that my brain has been trained, to point a finger at somebody else, instead to look within and tell a different story, be willing to tell a different story about that. If I'm the nurse leader, about that ED or that CEO, and vice versa, being able and willing to change the way that I think about what my nurse force is doing right now and the things that they're saying. I mean, it takes one to change the whole thing, but two will really get us there faster if we could. But yeah, really good points that you guys made. Really good.
No, we appreciate you. So awesome. Well, thank you both. Thank you to our viewers. And this has been fantastic and insightful. We appreciate you, Angie. Thanks, Susie.
Guys, thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.